Hey. Hi, guys. I hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are doing awesome. Okay, today, we're going to do another Bible reading where I'm going to read the word and give you guys what the word of the Lord is saying. And tonight I want to read from the book of 2 Kings, chapter 4. And I'm going to read the full passage of scripture because I want to really break it down for you all. So give me a minute. Let me just get this sorted. So guys, I'm just doing voice recording at the moment because it's more practical for me at the moment in my time in my life right now. So this evening, because it's evening now as I'm reading, I want to read from the book of 2 Kings. So let's read. Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the son of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 sons to be bondmen. Verse 2. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, Thy handmaid had not anything in the house save a pot of oil. I'm reading from the King James Version, okay? Then he said in verse 3, Go borrow thee vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. All right? The Lord wants you to expect supernatural increase by being obedient to the instructions he will give you. So your obedience to the instructions of the Lord will bring you supernatural increase, okay? Expect a supernatural increase in your life this season, all right? I was at verses 4. Okay, let's go on. And when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shalt pour out into all those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. Listen, she received instructions that she had to carry out, okay? So don't let that go over your head. Remember, the blessings of the Lord is coming with instructions, and it's only by your obedience to the instructions you shall receive that which you have prayed for, okay? So she went, verse 5, from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. In verse 6, and it came to pass when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel more. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. Wow, isn't that God? Isn't that like God, huh? The oil stayed because there was no more vessels to fill. Let's continue to read. In verse 7, then she came and told the man of God, and he said, Go, sell the oil, and pay thy debt, and live thou and thy children of the rest. Do not let anyone tell you that God does not care about your debts. He does. Okay? And if God cares about those things that we have on this earth. He will give you solutions, and that can be by selling, working, selling, these different things. Not everyone is called to work a 9 to 5. You might be called to open your own business, and that is when a lot of people are discouraged when in the first few years of their startup things are not looking the way they expected, and they tend to give up very quickly. But and also there are some people who are discouraged because the people who they expected to support them are not supporting them, and they also receive these type of like, oh, does God really want you to do that, and so forth. So it really discourages people. And then there's some people who does not believe that God would want you to be in the marketplace, which is a lie, because we can clearly see that the first woman, I believe is the first woman we hear about in the Bible that ever did business, is this woman here in 2 Kings. She had nothing else in her house set except for a pot of oil, and the pot of oil saved her life because the man of God gave her wise counsel. She took the wise counsel and did what he said, and she received the reward of her obedience. And not only that, she was able to save her life and her children's life and pay her debts. So the creditors were as well happy, because I'm so sure that there's a lot of people that have they have debtors as well, and they don't like to answer the phone or anything like that, because they know that the creditors are upset, and they don't have an answer for them, so they try to avoid answering to phone calls and so forth about their debts. And when they do get to pay their debts, or when God does cancel those debts by supernatural means, or he puts it on the heart of someone else to help this individual, everyone is happy, right? Because debts are settled, everyone gets to pay their own bills, and so everyone is happy. Okay, so remember to obey the Lord this season, because the blessing comes with, what did I say? The blessing comes with instructions. What else did I say? We have to be obedient if we want to receive the blessing of the Lord. And then I said, you might not be called to do a 9 to 5. You might be called to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, or something else. It can be ministry. You can be called to go into full-time ministry. God is probably calling you to trust him and to go into full-time ministry and teach into on YouTube or on any platform, or maybe even in a church. And so pray about it, because God might be calling you into ministry to really speak to you about what he's calling you to do. Okay, I'm gonna continue to read in verse 8. And it fell on a day that Elisha passed to Shunem, where was a great woman, and she constrained him to eat bread. And so it was that as oft as he passed by, he turned in there to eat bread. And verse 9, and she said unto her husband, Behold, now I perceive that this is an holy man of God, which passed by us continually. And verse 10, let us make a little chamber, I pray thee, on the wall, and let us set for him there a bed and a table and the stool, and the candlestick. And it shall be, when he come to us, that he shall turn in there. And verse 11 it says, and it fell on that day that he came there, and he turned into the chamber and lay there. In verse 12, and he said to Gehazi his servant, excuse me guys, this Shunammite, call this Shunammite, sorry. And when he had called her, she stood before him. And he said unto him, say now unto her, behold, thou hast been careful for us with all this care. What is to be done for thee? Wouldest thou be spoken for to the king, or to the captain of the host? And she answered and said, I dwell among my own people. Verse 14. And he said, what then is to be done for you? For her. And Gehazi answered, verily, she had no child, and her husband is old. And he said, call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the door. Verse 16. And he said, about this season, according to the time of life, you shall embrace a son. And she said, nay, my Lord, thou man of God, do not lie to me. The Lord wants you to know that he will give you a miracle of the womb. And he says, in this case, honor is the key. Honor is the key. Notice that she honored the man of God. Okay? When she saw that the man of God was an holy man, she perceived that he was a holy man. In verse 9 it says, she perceived, and she spoke to her husband to ask of him to build the chamber, or to add the chamber in the house that they had, in order for the man of God to have somewhere he can abode when he's there in their city. That is called honor. Okay? And the Lord wants you to know that your honor, by you honoring someone, you are going to receive a miracle of the womb. And so I'm not gonna limit God and say it's only by physical womb. Okay, so I believe this can be spiritual fruits as well, as in you might be believing God to see some progress in a certain area of your life, and you're waiting to see the fruits of your labor. And that can also be fruits of the womb. Okay, that can also be a miracle of the womb. And you can be believing God for a baby, and that's a miracle of the womb. So take it how it resonates to you in your situation. Bring it back to God. And as long as you're obedient to the voice of the Lord and you honor the person that he puts on your heart to honor, you will receive what he has for you, okay? In verse 17, we continue to read. And the woman conceived and bare a son at that season that Elijah had said unto her, according to the time of life. The child was grown. It fell on a day that he went out to his father to the reapers. Verse 19. And he said unto his father, my head, my head. And he said to a lad, carry him to his mother. And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon, and then he died. And verse 21, excuse me. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, and shut the door upon him, and went out. And she called unto her husband, and said, Send me, I pray you, one of the young men, and one of the asses, that I may run to the man of God, and come again. And verse 23, and he said, Wherefore wilt thou go to him this day? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath. And she said, It shall be well. Notice she said, It shall be well. Her faith had already sealed the healing of her son without she even knowing. She had already received the healing of her son just because she was faithful to God.